Learn to delay gratification. Master self-control and unlock long-term success. By T.M. Light. Description: This book is a powerful self-development guide that teaches how to master self-control, overcome impulsive behavior, and achieve long-term success. This motivational book explores the psychology of discipline, emotional control, and habit building in a world driven by instant gratification. Discover how to resist temptation, build consistency, and make intentional decisions that align with your goals. By focusing on patience, mindset, and daily habits, this book helps you unlock your full potential. If you want to improve focus, strengthen discipline, and create lasting success, this guide provides the tools to transform your life. Chapter Outline. Introduction. Chapter 1. Understanding instant versus delayed gratification. Chapter 2. The psychology of self-control. Chapter 3. The cost of impulsiveness. Chapter 4. Rewiring your mind for patience. Chapter 5. Discipline as a daily practice. Chapter 6. Controlling your environment. Chapter 7. Setting long-term goals that matter. Chapter 8. The power of small wins. Chapter 9. Emotional control and temptation resistance. Chapter 10. Becoming a person of self-control. Confidencebuildingaudiobook. We are living in a time where everything is designed to be fast, easy, and immediate. With a single tap, you can access entertainment, order food, connect with people, or escape discomfort. The world has been engineered to reward you instantly. And while this level of convenience feels good in the moment, it comes with a hidden cost that most people do not fully realize. That cost is self-control. The more you become used to instant rewards, the harder it becomes to delay them. The more you satisfy every impulse, the weaker your ability to resist becomes. Over time, this creates a pattern where short-term pleasure takes priority over long-term success. You begin to choose what feels good now, instead of what will benefit you later. This is why so many people struggle with discipline. It is not because they are incapable. It is not because they lack potential. It is because they are constantly surrounded by opportunities to avoid discomfort. Every time you choose ease over effort, distraction over focus, or comfort over growth, you reinforce a pattern. And that pattern slowly shapes your life. At first, the effects are not obvious. Skipping one task does not seem like a big deal. Choosing entertainment over productivity feels harmless. Giving in to small impulses seems insignificant. But over time, these choices accumulate. They create habits. And those habits determine your outcomes. The hidden cost of instant gratification is not just lost time. It is lost potential. Every moment you choose short-term comfort, you are moving away from long-term progress. You are delaying growth. You are weakening your discipline. And often you are creating a sense of regret that builds quietly in the background. Regret is one of the most powerful consequences of a lack of self-control. It is the realization that you could have done more, been more, achieved more, but you allowed temporary comfort to take priority. It is the awareness that opportunities were available, but you were not prepared to take them. This is not meant to discourage you. It is meant to awaken you. Because the same patterns that hold you back can also be changed. There is a reason why delayed gratification is so strongly connected to success. It is not just a concept. It is supported by science, psychology, and real-world results. Studies have shown that individuals who can delay immediate rewards in favor of future benefits tend to perform better in almost every area of life. They achieve more academically, professionally, and personally. They develop stronger discipline, better decision-making, and greater resilience. Why is this the case? Because delayed gratification trains your mind to prioritize what truly matters. It strengthens your ability to resist impulses. It builds the mental toughness required to stay focused, even when distractions are everywhere. When you choose to delay gratification, you are not just saying no to something in the moment. You are saying yes to something greater in the future. This is where the shift begins. The top performers in any field understand this deeply. They do not see time the way most people do. They are not focused on what feels good right now. They are focused on what will matter later. While others are seeking comfort, they are building discipline. While others are avoiding effort, they are embracing it. While others are distracted, they are focused. They think differently about rewards. They understand that the most valuable rewards are often delayed. They know that the effort they put in today may not produce immediate results, but over time it will compound. They trust the process. They stay committed, even when progress is not visible. This mindset gives them an advantage. It allows them to stay consistent while others give up. It allows them to make decisions that align with their long-term goals instead of their short-term emotions. It allows them to build something meaningful, while others remain stuck in cycles of instant gratification. At the core of this is a powerful connection between patience, discipline, and achievement. Patience allows you to wait for the right results. Discipline allows you to take the necessary actions. And together they create long-term success. Without patience, you rush. You look for shortcuts. You give up too soon. Without discipline, you lack consistency. You struggle to follow through. You fall back into old habits. But when you combine patience and discipline, something powerful happens. You become steady. You become focused. You become consistent. And consistency is what creates results. This book is designed to help you develop that consistency. It is not about quick fixes or temporary motivation. It is about building a mindset and a system that allows you to take control of your impulses and align your actions with your goals. You will learn how to strengthen your self-control so that you are no longer driven by every urge or distraction. You will learn how to build discipline so that you can take action even when it is uncomfortable. You will learn how to rewire your decision-making so that you naturally choose what benefits you in the long term. This is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming intentional. It is about creating awareness of your choices. It is about understanding the impact of those choices. And it is about making decisions that move you forward instead of holding you back. The most important message to carry with you as you begin this journey is simple, but powerful. What you resist today determines what you gain tomorrow. Every time you resist an impulse, you are building strength. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you are investing in your future. Every time you delay gratification, you are creating the foundation for something greater. These moments may seem small, but they are not insignificant. They are shaping your identity. They are determining your direction. They are building your life. You are not defined by one big decision. You are defined by the small choices you make consistently. And from this point forward, those choices are yours to control. This is where your transformation begins. Chapter 1: Understanding Instant versus Delayed Gratification. Every decision you make, no matter how small it seems, is shaping the direction of your life. Some choices move you forward, building strength, discipline, and progress. Others pull you backward, keeping you stuck in cycles of comfort, distraction, and regret. At the center of this constant battle is one powerful concept: gratification. Instant gratification is the desire to experience pleasure or relief immediately without delay. It is the urge to choose what feels good now, even if it comes at the cost of something greater later. It is checking your phone instead of focusing on your work. It is choosing entertainment over effort, comfort over growth, and ease over discipline. It is giving in to impulses simply because they are there. Delayed gratification, on the other hand, is the ability to resist those immediate urges in order to achieve something more valuable in the future. It is choosing to stay focused when distractions are calling. It is continuing to work when it would be easier to stop. It is sacrificing short-term pleasure for long-term success. This difference may seem simple, but it is one of the most important distinctions you can understand. Because your life is not shaped by one big decision, but by the small choices you make every single day. And those choices often come down to one question: will you choose what is easy now or what is better later? Instant gratification is addictive because it provides immediate reward. It gives you a quick sense of pleasure, relief, or satisfaction. Your brain is wired to seek these rewards. When you experience something enjoyable, your brain releases chemicals that make you feel good. This creates a feedback loop. You begin to associate certain behaviors with pleasure, and your brain encourages you to repeat them. The problem is not the existence of pleasure. The problem is the timing of it. When rewards come instantly, they require no effort, no patience, and no discipline. They feel easy, accessible, and harmless. But over time, they begin to weaken your ability to delay gratification. They train your mind to expect immediate results. They reduce your tolerance for discomfort. This is why instant gratification becomes so powerful. It is not just about one moment of pleasure. It is about conditioning your mind to seek that pleasure repeatedly. Modern life amplifies this effect. Everything around you is designed to capture your attention and deliver quick rewards. Social media provides endless streams of content. Entertainment is available at any moment. Notifications constantly pull your focus. Food, convenience, and comfort are always within reach. You do not have to wait. You do not have to struggle. You do not have to delay. And while this may seem like progress, it creates a hidden challenge. The more you are exposed to instant rewards, the harder it becomes to resist them. Your mind becomes used to stimulation. It becomes uncomfortable with stillness. It becomes impatient with anything that requires effort or time. Tasks that once seemed manageable begin to feel difficult. Focus becomes harder to maintain. Discipline becomes harder to build. This is how modern life conditions you. It does not force you to make poor choices. It simply makes those choices easier. And when something is easy and rewarding, it becomes a habit. The danger is not in one moment of distraction. It is in the accumulation of those moments. It is in the pattern that forms over time. Short-term thinking is the natural result of constant exposure to instant gratification. When you are used to immediate rewards, you begin to prioritize them. You make decisions based on what feels good now, instead of what will benefit you later. This creates a cycle. You choose comfort over effort. You avoid discomfort. You delay important tasks. You lose focus. You fall behind. And then you feel the consequences. But instead of addressing the root cause, you seek more instant gratification to escape the discomfort. You distract yourself again. You repeat the cycle. Over time, this leads to lost opportunities. You may have goals, ambitions, and potential, but without the ability to delay gratification, those things remain unrealized. You start projects but do not finish them. You make plans but do not follow through. You see possibilities but do not act on them consistently. This is how potential is wasted. Not through lack of ability, but through lack of discipline. The long-term consequences of short-term thinking are significant. They affect every area of your life. In your work, it leads to inconsistency and missed progress. In your personal growth, it prevents you from developing skills and habits. In your relationships, it can lead to poor decisions and lack of presence. In your mindset, it creates frustration, doubt, and regret. The cost is not always immediate, but it is always real. And the longer the pattern continues, the harder it becomes to break. But there is another path. Delayed gratification is not just a concept. It is a skill. It is something you can develop. And once you begin to practice it, everything starts to change. Choosing future rewards over immediate pleasure is not always easy. It requires awareness. It requires discipline. It requires the ability to sit with discomfort and continue anyway. But it also creates strength. Every time you delay gratification, you are training your mind. You are building the ability to resist impulses. You are strengthening your focus. You are reinforcing the belief that you are in control of your actions. This is where growth begins. At first, the difference may feel small. Choosing to focus instead of getting distracted. Choosing to continue instead of stopping. Choosing to wait instead of giving in. But over time, these choices compound. They build discipline. They create consistency. They produce results. The top performers in any field understand this principle. They are not immune to temptation. They experience the same urges, the same distractions, the same challenges. The difference is that they have trained themselves to respond differently. They do not act on every impulse. They pause. They think. They choose. They understand that what they do today will shape their future. They prioritize what matters most. They stay focused on long-term outcomes, even when short-term distractions are present. This gives them an advantage. While others are seeking immediate pleasure, they are building long-term success. While others are distracted, they are focused. While others are inconsistent, they are disciplined. This is how separation is created. It is not through one big decision, but through consistent choices over time. Delayed gratification allows you to take control of your life. It allows you to align your actions with your goals. It allows you to build something meaningful, instead of chasing temporary satisfaction. It also changes how you see discomfort. Most people avoid discomfort because it feels unpleasant. But discomfort is often a sign of growth. It is the space where improvement happens. It is the moment where you are pushing beyond your current limits. When you learn to tolerate discomfort, you unlock a new level of potential. You are no longer controlled by what feels easy. You are guided by what is meaningful. This shift is powerful. It changes how you approach challenges. It changes how you spend your time. It changes how you make decisions. Instead of asking, "What do I feel like doing?" you begin to ask, "What will move me forward?" And that question changes everything. Because the answer is rarely the easiest option. It is rarely the most comfortable. But it is always the one that leads to growth. Understanding the difference between instant and delayed gratification is the first step. It creates awareness. It helps you see the patterns in your behavior. It allows you to recognize the choices you are making. But awareness alone is not enough. The next step is action. You must begin to practice delaying gratification. You must begin to make intentional choices. You must begin to train your mind. This will not happen overnight. It will take time. It will require effort. But every step forward matters. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you are building strength. Every time you resist an impulse, you are gaining control. Every time you focus on the long term, you are moving closer to your goals. This is how change happens. Not in one moment, but in many. Not through perfection, but through consistency. And as you continue, something powerful begins to happen. Your mindset shifts. Your habits improve. Your confidence grows. And you begin to realize that you are capable of more than you once believed. Because you are no longer controlled by immediate rewards. You are guided by long-term vision. And that is what sets you apart. Chapter 2: The Psychology of Self-Control. Self-control is often misunderstood. Many people believe it is simply about being strong enough to resist temptation, as if it were a fixed trait that some people are born with and others are not. But the truth is far more empowering than that. Self-control is not something you either have or don't have. It is something that is built, trained, and strengthened over time. To truly understand self-control, you must first understand how your mind works. Your brain is designed to keep you safe, comfortable, and rewarded. It constantly scans for opportunities to reduce effort and increase pleasure. This is not a flaw. It is a survival mechanism. In the past, conserving energy and seeking immediate rewards helped humans survive in uncertain environments. But in today's world, that same mechanism can work against you. Every time you encounter something rewarding, whether it is food, entertainment, or distraction, your brain responds. It releases chemicals that create a sense of pleasure. This response reinforces the behavior, making it more likely that you will repeat it in the future. This is how habits are formed. The more you give in to immediate rewards, the stronger the pattern becomes. Your brain begins to expect that reward. It anticipates it. And when it does not receive it, it creates discomfort. This discomfort is what you feel as temptation. Temptation is not just a thought. It is a physical and emotional response. It creates a sense of urgency. It makes you feel like you need to act immediately. It convinces you that giving in will bring relief. And in the moment, it often does. But that relief is temporary. The challenge is that your brain does not naturally prioritize long-term rewards. It prioritizes immediate ones. It is focused on what is happening now, not what will happen later. This is why delaying gratification requires effort. It goes against your brain's natural tendency. Understanding this is important because it changes how you approach self-control. Instead of seeing temptation as a sign of weakness, you begin to see it as a natural response that can be managed. You are not broken for feeling tempted. You are human. The key is learning how to respond to that temptation. One of the biggest factors that weaken self-control is emotion. Your emotional state has a direct impact on your ability to make disciplined decisions. When you feel stressed, tired, bored, or overwhelmed, your ability to resist temptation decreases. In these moments, your brain seeks relief. It looks for something that will make you feel better quickly. This is why people often turn to instant gratification when they are emotional. They eat when they are stressed. They distract themselves when they are overwhelmed. They procrastinate when they feel uncertain. These behaviors are not random. They are responses to emotional triggers. If you do not understand these triggers, they will control your actions. The top performers understand this. They do not ignore their emotions, but they do not allow those emotions to dictate their behavior. They recognize when they are feeling vulnerable. They become aware of the patterns. And instead of reacting automatically, they choose their response. This awareness is powerful. It allows you to pause. It gives you a moment to think. It creates space between the feeling and the action. And in that space, you have a choice. You can follow the impulse, or you can choose discipline. But making that choice consistently requires more than awareness. It requires energy. This is where willpower comes in. Willpower is often described as the ability to resist temptation and stay focused on your goals. But what many people do not realize is that willpower is not unlimited. It is a resource that can be used up. Throughout the day, every decision you make, every temptation you resist, and every effort you exert draws from your mental energy. As that energy decreases, your ability to maintain self-control becomes weaker. This is why it feels harder to stay disciplined at certain times. After a long day, when you are tired or mentally drained, your resistance is lower. You are more likely to give in to distractions. You are more likely to choose comfort over effort. This does not mean you lack discipline. It means your energy is depleted. The average mindset does not account for this. It relies on willpower alone. It assumes that discipline is simply about trying harder. But this approach is unsustainable. The top 1% understand that willpower must be managed and strengthened. They do not rely on it constantly. They create systems that reduce the need for it. They build habits that make disciplined actions automatic. They design environments that minimize temptation. At the same time, they strengthen their willpower through practice. Every time you resist an impulse, you are training your mind. You are building your capacity for self-control. You are increasing your ability to handle future challenges. But this must be done consistently. If you constantly give in to impulses, your willpower weakens. If you consistently resist them, your willpower strengthens. It is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. But it also needs to be managed. If you push it too hard without recovery, it becomes fatigue. This is why balance is important. You must challenge yourself, but you must also be aware of your limits. You must build discipline, but you must also create systems that support it. One of the most important skills you can develop in this process is awareness of your impulses. Most people act on impulses without even realizing it. They react automatically. They follow habits that have been repeated so many times that they feel natural. But when you begin to observe your impulses, everything changes. You start to notice the patterns. You see when you are tempted. You recognize the situations that trigger certain behaviors. You become aware of the thoughts and emotions that lead to action. This awareness gives you control. Because you cannot change what you do not see. When you are aware of your impulses, you can interrupt them. You can question them. You can choose whether to act on them or not. This is the foundation of self-control. It is not about eliminating temptation. That is not realistic. Temptation will always exist. The goal is to change how you respond to it. Instead of reacting automatically, you respond intentionally. Instead of giving in immediately, you pause. Instead of following the same patterns, you create new ones. This process takes time. It requires patience. It requires consistency. But every step forward matters. Every time you become aware of an impulse and choose not to act on it, you are strengthening your control. Every time you resist a distraction, you are building focus. Every time you choose discipline, you are reinforcing a new identity. Over time, these small moments create a transformation. Your thinking becomes clearer. Your decisions become stronger. Your actions become more intentional, and your ability to control yourself improves. The psychology of self-control is not about perfection. It is about understanding. Understanding how your brain works. Understanding your emotional triggers. Understanding your limits and how to strengthen them. And most importantly, understanding that you have the ability to change. You are not controlled by your impulses. You are not limited by your current habits. You have the ability to observe, to decide, and to act differently. And once you begin to use that ability, everything begins to shift. Because self-control is not something you are given. It is something you build. And the more you build it, the more powerful you become. Chapter 3: The Cost of Impulsiveness. Every action you take carries a consequence. Some are immediate and obvious, while others are delayed and hidden beneath the surface. Impulsive decisions often fall into the second category. They feel harmless in the moment, sometimes even rewarding, but over time they quietly shape your life in ways that can either build you or break you. Impulsiveness is the habit of acting without thinking, choosing immediate satisfaction over thoughtful decision-making. It is driven by emotion, urgency, and the desire to escape discomfort. It convinces you that what you feel right now is more important than what you want in the future. And this is where the cost begins. At first, impulsive decisions seem small. Skipping a task, spending money unnecessarily, reacting emotionally in a conversation, choosing distraction over focus. Each decision feels insignificant on its own. But the truth is, your life is not shaped by one decision. It is shaped by patterns. When impulsiveness becomes a pattern, it starts to influence every area of your life. In your success, impulsive behavior creates inconsistency. You start strong but you struggle to follow through. You make plans but you do not stick to them. You set goals, but you abandon them when things become difficult or when something more appealing appears. Success requires consistency. It requires the ability to stay focused, even when distractions are present. It requires the discipline to continue, even when motivation fades. Impulsiveness disrupts all of this. It pulls you away from what matters. It replaces intention with reaction. It makes you dependent on how you feel in the moment, instead of what you are committed to in the long term. Over time, this leads to frustration. Not because you lack ability, but because you are not giving yourself the opportunity to use it fully. In your finances, impulsiveness can be even more damaging. Money is not just about how much you earn. It is about how you manage what you have. Impulsive spending often feels justified in the moment. It is easy to convince yourself that you deserve it, that it is not a big deal, or that you will make up for it later. But these decisions add up. Small, unnecessary expenses accumulate. Opportunities to save or invest are missed. Financial stability becomes harder to achieve. Instead of building security, you create cycles of short-term satisfaction followed by long-term stress. The difference between financial growth and financial struggle often comes down to discipline. The ability to delay gratification. The ability to think beyond the moment. The ability to make decisions based on long-term value instead of immediate desire. Impulsiveness works against all of this. In your relationships, the cost can be even more personal. Impulsive reactions can damage trust, create conflict and weaken connections. Speaking without thinking, reacting out of emotion, or making decisions without considering the impact on others can lead to misunderstandings and regret. Relationships require patience, understanding, and emotional control. They require the ability to pause, to listen, and to respond thoughtfully. Impulsiveness removes that pause. It replaces thoughtful communication with reaction. It turns small moments into larger issues. It creates distance where there could have been connection. The cost of impulsiveness is not just external. It also affects how you see yourself. Every time you act impulsively and regret it, you weaken your trust in yourself. You begin to question your ability to stay disciplined. You start to feel like you lack control. This creates a cycle. You make an impulsive decision. You feel regret. You lose confidence. And then, instead of correcting the behavior, you seek comfort again, often through more impulsive actions. This is the trap of short-term pleasure. Short-term pleasure feels good in the moment. It provides relief, escape, and satisfaction. But it often leads to long-term pain. The pain may not be immediate, but it is inevitable. It shows up as missed opportunities, lack of progress, financial stress, damaged relationships, and a growing sense of frustration. The more you rely on short-term pleasure, the more you distance yourself from long-term success. This is the trade-off. You cannot have both. You cannot consistently choose what is easy now and expect a better future. You cannot avoid discomfort and expect growth. You cannot act on every impulse and expect discipline. The path you choose determines the outcome. The top performers understand this deeply. They are not immune to impulses, but they do not allow those impulses to control them. They recognize the difference between what feels good now and what will benefit them later. They choose the latter. This does not mean they never experience pleasure. It means they are intentional about when and how they experience it. They earn it. They align it with their goals. They do not let it interfere with their progress. This level of control is not automatic. It is built. And the first step in building it is recognizing patterns of self-sabotage. Self-sabotage is often subtle. It does not always look like failure. Sometimes it looks like procrastination. Sometimes it looks like distraction. Sometimes it looks like small decisions that seem harmless but slowly pull you off track. It is choosing what is easy when you know what is right. It is delaying action even when you know it matters. It is giving in to impulses that you later regret. These patterns often go unnoticed because they are familiar. They feel normal. They are part of your routine. But once you begin to observe them, you start to see how they affect your life. You notice how certain situations trigger certain behaviors. You see how emotions influence your decisions. You recognize the moments where you choose comfort over growth. This awareness is powerful. Because you cannot change what you do not see. When you begin to recognize your patterns, you create the opportunity to change them. But change requires action. Breaking the cycle of instant gratification is not about eliminating impulses. It is about responding to them differently. It starts with a pause. When you feel the urge to act impulsively, you stop. You create space. You allow yourself to think before you act. This pause may seem small, but it is powerful. It gives you control. It allows you to consider the consequences of your actions. It allows you to align your decision with your goals. Instead of reacting automatically, you respond intentionally. At first, this will not be easy. Your mind will resist. It will push you toward what is familiar. It will try to justify the impulse. But every time you pause and choose differently, you are building strength. You are training your mind. You are breaking the pattern. Over time, this becomes easier. The urge may still be there, but your response changes. You become more aware, more intentional, more in control. This is how you break the cycle. Not through one big decision but through many small ones. Each time you choose discipline over impulse, you move forward. Each time you resist short-term pleasure, you build long-term strength. Each time you act with intention, you reinforce a new identity. You become someone who is in control. Someone who does not act without thinking. Someone who prioritizes what matters. And this identity changes everything. Because once you see yourself as someone who is disciplined, your actions begin to reflect that. You no longer rely on willpower alone. You operate from a higher standard. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to feel confident in your decisions. You begin to see progress. The cost of impulsiveness is real, but so is the reward of discipline. When you take control of your actions, you take control of your life. You stop being driven by temporary emotions. You start being guided by long-term vision. And that shift creates a new path. A path where your decisions align with your goals. A path where your actions build your future. A path where you are no longer held back by impulses, but move forward by intention. This is the difference between reacting and choosing. And that difference changes everything. Chapter 4: Rewiring your mind for patience. Patience is one of the most misunderstood qualities in personal growth. Many people see it as passive, as if it means waiting without action or accepting less than you deserve. But true patience is not passive at all. It is active, intentional, and powerful. It is the ability to stay committed to your path, even when results are not immediate. It is the discipline to continue when progress feels slow. It is the strength to choose long-term success over short-term comfort. In a world built on speed, patience feels unnatural. Everything around you is designed to be instant. You are constantly encouraged to move faster, get results quicker, and avoid anything that takes too long. Over time, this creates a mindset where waiting feels uncomfortable and effort feels frustrating. This is why patience must be trained. Your brain has been conditioned to seek immediate rewards. It is used to quick feedback, fast results, and constant stimulation. When those things are not present, it creates discomfort. It pushes you to find something easier, something faster, something more rewarding in the moment. But this discomfort is not something you should avoid. It is something you must learn to tolerate. Training your brain to tolerate discomfort is one of the most important steps in rewiring your mindset. Because growth does not happen in comfort. It happens in the space where things feel difficult, uncertain, and challenging. When you sit with discomfort instead of escaping it, you begin to build strength. You develop the ability to stay focused, even when things are not easy. You learn to continue, even when you do not feel like it. At first, this will feel unnatural. Your mind will resist. It will look for distractions. It will try to convince you that stopping is the better option. But every time you choose to stay, to continue to push forward, you are training your brain. You are teaching it that discomfort is not something to fear. You are showing it that you are in control. This is how patience begins to develop. It is not about waiting without action. It is about continuing to act, even when the reward is delayed. Another key part of this process is replacing impulsive reactions with intentional choices. Impulsiveness is automatic. It is quick. It does not require thought. It is driven by emotion and habit. When you act impulsively, you are not choosing. You are reacting. Intentional choices are different. They require awareness. They require a pause. They require you to step back and consider your options before acting. This pause is where change happens. When you feel the urge to act impulsively, instead of following it immediately, you stop. You create space between the feeling and the action. You allow yourself to think. In that moment, you ask yourself a different question. Instead of asking, "What do I feel like doing?" you ask, "What will move me forward?" This shift is powerful. It takes you out of reaction and puts you into control. At first, this will require effort. You will need to remind yourself to pause. You will need to catch your impulses before they turn into actions. But over time, this process becomes more natural. Your mind begins to adapt. You become less reactive and more intentional. You begin to make decisions based on your goals instead of your emotions. This is how you replace impulsiveness with discipline. But this process requires mental resistance. Mental resistance is the ability to withstand urges, distractions, and discomfort without giving in. It is the strength to hold your position, even when your mind is pushing you in another direction. Just like physical strength, mental resistance must be developed. Every time you resist an impulse, you are strengthening it. Every time you choose focus over distraction, you are building it. Every time you continue despite discomfort, you are reinforcing it. At first, your resistance may feel weak. You may give in often. You may struggle to stay consistent. But this is part of the process. Strength is built through repetition. The more you practice resisting impulses, the stronger you become. The more you challenge yourself, the more your capacity grows. Over time, what once felt difficult becomes easier. You begin to notice a shift. You are no longer controlled by every urge. You are no longer pulled in different directions. You are able to stay focused, even when distractions are present. This is where discipline begins to feel natural. And as your mental resistance strengthens, you can begin to develop long-term thinking habits. Long-term thinking is one of the most powerful skills you can build. It changes how you make decisions. It changes how you view challenges. It changes how you approach your goals. Most people think in the short term. They focus on what is happening now. They make decisions based on immediate outcomes. They choose what feels good in the moment. This limits their progress. Because short-term thinking leads to short-term results. Long-term thinking requires a different perspective. It requires you to look beyond the present moment. It requires you to consider the future impact of your actions. It requires you to prioritize what will benefit you later, even if it is difficult now. This shift is not always easy. It requires patience. It requires discipline. It requires trust in the process. But it also creates powerful results. When you think long-term, your decisions change. You invest your time more wisely. You focus on building skills instead of seeking quick rewards. You commit to habits that compound over time. You become less concerned with immediate outcomes and more focused on consistent progress. This allows you to stay steady. You are not easily discouraged by slow results. You are not distracted by temporary setbacks. You remain focused on the bigger picture. This is what gives the top performers their advantage. They are not rushed. They are not reactive. They are patient, consistent, and intentional. They understand that success is not built in a single moment. It is built over time. And they are willing to do the work, even when the reward is not immediate. Rewiring your mind for patience is not something that happens overnight. It is a process. It requires awareness, effort, and consistency. But every step you take moves you closer. Every time you tolerate discomfort, you grow stronger. Every time you make an intentional choice, you gain control. Every time you resist an impulse, you build discipline. And every time you think long-term, you move forward. This is how change happens. Not in one big moment, but in many small ones. You are not trying to eliminate discomfort. You are learning to work through it. You are not trying to avoid impulses. You are learning to control them. You are not waiting for patience to appear. You are building it. And as you continue, something powerful begins to happen. You become more focused, more disciplined, more in control. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to see progress. And you begin to realize that patience is not a weakness. It is a strength. It is the ability to stay committed when others give up. It is the ability to continue when others stop. It is the ability to build something meaningful while others chase what is easy. And that ability changes everything. Because once you master patience, you unlock a new level of potential. You are no longer controlled by time. You are no longer driven by urgency. You are guided by intention. And that is where real success begins. Chapter 5: Discipline as a Daily Practice. There is a moment in every journey where excitement fades and reality begins. At the start, everything feels possible. You are motivated, inspired, and ready to change. You set goals, make plans, and promise yourself that this time will be different. But then, slowly, that energy begins to fade. The work becomes repetitive. The progress feels slow. The initial spark disappears. This is where most people stop. Not because they lack ability, but because they were relying on something that was never meant to last. They were relying on motivation. Motivation is powerful, but it is temporary. It rises when you feel inspired and disappears when things become difficult. It depends on your emotions, your environment, and your circumstances. Some days you feel unstoppable. Other days, even the smallest task feels like a burden. If your progress depends on motivation, your results will always be inconsistent. This is why discipline matters. Discipline is not based on how you feel. It is based on what you decide. It is the ability to take action regardless of your mood, your energy, or your circumstances. It is the commitment to doing what needs to be done, even when it is uncomfortable. The top performers do not wait to feel motivated. They act because it is part of who they are. They understand that feelings are unreliable, but standards are not. When you operate from standards, you remove the need to constantly negotiate with yourself. You no longer ask, "Do I feel like doing this?" You say, "This is what I do." That shift changes everything. Because the truth is, the actions that lead to success are not always exciting. They are often repetitive, uncomfortable, and challenging. They require focus, effort, and consistency. And if you rely on motivation alone, you will avoid them more often than you face them. Discipline allows you to face them anyway. It gives you the ability to stay consistent. It keeps you moving forward when others stop. It turns effort into progress and progress into results. But discipline is not something you use occasionally. It is something you practice daily. It is built through habits. Habits are the foundation of discipline. They are the actions you repeat so often that they become automatic. They remove the need for constant decision-making. They reduce resistance. They make it easier to stay on track. When you build habits that support self-control, you create a system that works for you. Instead of relying on willpower every time, your habits guide your behavior. They create structure. They provide direction. They make disciplined actions feel natural. This is why habits are so powerful. They turn effort into routine. They turn intention into action. They turn discipline into identity. The key is to build habits that align with your goals. Every habit you practice is either moving you forward or holding you back. There is no neutral ground. Small actions repeated consistently create patterns. And those patterns determine your results. If you want to strengthen your self-control, you must build habits that support it. This does not require drastic changes. It requires consistency. Small actions performed daily can create powerful shifts. Choosing to focus instead of getting distracted. Choosing to complete a task instead of delaying it. Choosing to follow through instead of giving up. These actions may seem simple, but they are not insignificant. They are building your discipline. They are reinforcing your identity. And over time they become part of who you are. But building habits is not always easy. There will be moments when you do not feel like showing up. Moments when you are tired, distracted, or unmotivated. Moments when the easier option is to stop, delay, or avoid the work altogether. This is where discipline is tested. Showing up when it is easy does not require strength. Showing up when it is uncomfortable is what creates growth. Discomfort is part of the process. It is the space where you are pushing beyond your current limits. It is where you are developing new skills, new habits, and new levels of discipline. Most people avoid discomfort. They see it as something negative, something to escape. But the top performers see it differently. They see discomfort as a signal, a sign that they are growing, a sign that they are moving forward, a sign that they are doing something that matters. This shift in perspective is powerful. When you stop avoiding discomfort and start embracing it, you remove one of the biggest barriers to progress. You no longer wait for things to feel easy. You act anyway. And every time you do, you build strength. Every time you show up despite discomfort, you reinforce your discipline. You prove to yourself that you are capable. You create momentum. Over time, this momentum becomes powerful. What once felt difficult becomes manageable. What once felt uncomfortable becomes normal. What once required effort becomes routine. This is how discipline is built. Not through one big moment, but through many small ones. Another important aspect of discipline is creating routines that reduce temptation. Temptation is always present. Distractions, impulses, and easy options are everywhere. If you rely on willpower alone to resist them, you will eventually struggle. Willpower is limited. It can be drained. This is why structure is important. When you create routines, you reduce the need to make decisions. You remove uncertainty. You create a clear path. Instead of asking yourself what to do, you follow a system. This makes disciplined actions easier. It also reduces exposure to temptation. When your time is structured, there is less room for distraction. When your environment supports your goals, there are fewer triggers pulling you away. The top performers understand this. They do not rely on willpower alone. They design their lives in a way that supports discipline. They create routines that keep them focused. They remove unnecessary distractions. They make it easier to stay on track. This is not about controlling every moment of your day. It is about creating alignment. When your routines, habits, and environment all support your goals, discipline becomes more natural. It becomes part of your daily life, instead of something you have to force. This is where consistency is built. And consistency is what creates results. It is not about how hard you work in one moment. It is about how often you show up. It is about repeating the right actions over time. It is about staying committed, even when progress is slow. Discipline as a daily practice means showing up every day. Not perfectly, but consistently. It means taking action, even when you do not feel like it. It means choosing long-term success over short-term comfort. It means building habits that support your goals. And it means creating routines that make discipline easier. This is not always easy. There will be challenges. There will be setbacks. There will be days when you struggle. But what matters is that you continue. Because every time you show up, you are building something. You are building strength. You are building confidence. You are building identity. You are becoming someone who follows through. Someone who does what they say they will do. Someone who does not rely on motivation but on standards. And that identity changes everything. Because once you see yourself as disciplined, your actions begin to reflect that. You no longer hesitate. You no longer negotiate. You act. And as you continue, something powerful happens. Your habits become automatic. Your routines become natural. Your discipline becomes part of who you are. And once that happens, progress becomes inevitable. Because you are no longer relying on temporary motivation. You are operating from something stronger. Something more consistent. Something that does not fade. You are operating from discipline. And that is what leads to long-term success. Chapter 6: Controlling Your Environment. There is a powerful truth that many people overlook when trying to build discipline and self-control. They believe that success is purely about willpower, that if they can just be strong enough, focused enough, or motivated enough, they will achieve their goals. But what they fail to realize is that willpower alone is not enough. Your environment is shaping your behavior every single day. It is influencing your decisions, guiding your habits, and quietly determining whether you move forward or stay stuck. You may think you are fully in control, but your surroundings are constantly pulling you in certain directions. If those directions are not aligned with your goals, discipline becomes a constant struggle. This is why controlling your environment is one of the most powerful steps you can take. Your environment is not just the physical space around you. It is everything you are exposed to. The people you interact with, the content you consume, the habits that are encouraged, and the distractions that are available. All of these factors work together to shape your behavior. If your environment is filled with distractions, you will be distracted. If it encourages comfort over growth, you will lean toward comfort. If it makes bad habits easy and good habits difficult, you will struggle to stay consistent. This is not because you are weak. It is because your environment is stronger than your intentions. The average mindset ignores this. It tries to rely on willpower alone. It places itself in environments that make discipline difficult, and then feels frustrated when it cannot stay consistent. The top performers understand something different. They do not fight their environment. They design it. They create surroundings that support their goals instead of working against them. They make discipline easier by removing what interferes with it. This shift is powerful because it changes the way you approach growth. Instead of constantly resisting temptation, you reduce its presence. Instead of relying on strength alone, you create support. The first step in this process is recognizing the triggers that influence your behavior. Triggers are the things that lead to certain actions. They can be physical, emotional, or situational. A notification on your phone can trigger distraction. A certain environment can trigger habits. A specific emotion can lead to impulsive decisions. Most people are not aware of their triggers. They act automatically. They respond without thinking. But once you begin to observe your behavior, you start to see patterns. You notice what pulls your attention away. You notice what leads to procrastination. You notice what weakens your discipline. This awareness is critical, because once you identify your triggers, you can begin to remove them. Removing triggers is not about eliminating everything from your life. It is about removing what does not serve you. It is about reducing the influence of distractions that pull you away from your goals. If something consistently leads you to lose focus, it needs to be addressed. If a certain habit keeps you stuck, it needs to be changed. If your environment makes discipline difficult, it needs to be redesigned. This may require uncomfortable decisions. It may mean limiting certain activities. It may mean changing how you spend your time. It may mean creating boundaries that protect your focus. But these changes are necessary, because every trigger you remove makes discipline easier. Every distraction you eliminate creates space for focus. Every negative influence you reduce strengthens your ability to stay on track. The top performers do not wait until they feel strong enough to resist temptation. They reduce the temptation itself. This is how they maintain consistency. But removing distractions is only part of the process. The next step is designing an environment that supports discipline. This means creating a space that encourages the behaviors you want to develop. Your environment should make the right actions easier and the wrong actions harder. If you want to focus, your environment should minimize distractions. If you want to build productive habits, your surroundings should support those habits. If you want to improve your mindset, your inputs should reflect that. This is not about perfection. It is about alignment. When your environment is aligned with your goals, your behavior begins to follow. You no longer have to rely on constant effort. Your surroundings guide your actions. This creates consistency. Consistency creates progress. And progress builds confidence. The more your environment supports you, the easier it becomes to stay disciplined. This is why the top performers are intentional about their surroundings. They do not leave things to chance. They create structure. They build systems. They design their environment in a way that makes success more likely. They understand that small changes can have a big impact. Changing where you work can improve your focus. Adjusting your routine can improve your consistency. Limiting distractions can increase your productivity. These changes may seem simple, but they are powerful, because they reduce friction. Friction is what makes tasks feel difficult. It is the resistance you feel when you try to take action. When friction is high, you are less likely to follow through. When friction is low, action becomes easier. Your environment plays a major role in this. If your environment creates friction for productive actions, you will avoid them. If it reduces friction, you will engage in them more easily. This is why making the right choices easier is so important. You want to create a system where the best option is also the easiest one. When the path to discipline is clear and accessible, you are more likely to follow it. This does not mean you will never face challenges. It means you are reducing unnecessary obstacles. You are creating a foundation that supports your goals. And over time, this foundation becomes stronger. Your habits become more consistent. Your focus becomes sharper. Your discipline becomes more natural. You begin to rely less on willpower and more on structure. This is where real change happens. Because discipline is not just about resisting temptation. It is about creating an environment where temptation has less power. It is about building a system that supports your growth. It is about aligning your surroundings with your goals. This alignment creates momentum. When your environment works for you, progress becomes easier. You are no longer fighting against distractions. You are moving forward with intention. This is what allows the top performers to stay consistent. They are not constantly battling their surroundings. They are supported by them. And this support gives them an advantage. Because while others struggle to stay focused, they are already aligned. While others rely on willpower, they rely on systems. While others are distracted, they are progressing. This is the power of controlling your environment. It gives you an edge. It reduces resistance. It increases consistency. And it allows you to move forward with clarity and purpose. You have the ability to create this environment. You can choose what surrounds you. You can decide what influences your behavior. You can remove what holds you back and build what supports you. This is not something that happens overnight. It is a process. It requires awareness, effort, and intention. But every step you take makes a difference. Every change you make strengthens your foundation. Every improvement you create moves you forward. And over time, these changes become your new normal. You become more focused, more disciplined, more in control. Because your environment is no longer working against you. It is working with you. And that is where true progress begins. Chapter 7: Setting Long-Term Goals That Matter. There is a difference between movement and direction. Many people are constantly moving, staying busy, doing tasks and filling their days with activity. Yet despite all that effort, they feel stuck. They feel like they are not making real progress. They start things but do not finish them. They work hard, but they are not moving forward in a meaningful way. The reason is simple. They are moving without direction. Direction comes from having clear, meaningful goals. Without goals, your effort becomes scattered. Your time is spent reacting instead of building. Your actions are driven by what feels urgent instead of what truly matters. You may feel productive in the moment, but over time you realize that you're not getting closer to the life you want. This is why setting long-term goals is so important. Long-term goals give your life structure. They provide a sense of purpose. They create a target that your actions can align with. They turn effort into progress. But not all goals are created equal. The average mindset often sets vague goals. It says things like, I want to be successful, I want to improve, or I want a better life. These ideas sound good, but they lack clarity. They do not provide direction. They do not create urgency. The top performers set meaningful goals. They take the time to define what they truly want. They make their goals clear, specific, and connected to something deeper. Their goals are not just about results. They are about growth, purpose, and identity. When a goal is meaningful, it becomes powerful. It is no longer something you casually think about. It becomes something you commit to. It influences your decisions. It shapes your behavior. You begin to ask different questions. Instead of asking, what do I feel like doing today, you ask, what moves me closer to my goal? This shift changes everything. Because once you have a clear goal, your daily actions begin to matter more. Every choice becomes significant. Every decision becomes an opportunity to move forward. This is where connection becomes important. Your daily actions must be connected to your long-term goals. Without this connection, it is easy to lose focus. It is easy to fall into habits that do not support your progress. It is easy to become distracted by things that feel good in the moment, but do not contribute to your future. The top performers do not operate this way. They understand that what they do today shapes what they become tomorrow. They connect their daily actions to their long-term vision. This connection creates meaning. When you understand why you are doing something, it becomes easier to stay consistent. You are no longer just completing tasks. You are building something. You are investing in your future. This makes discipline easier, because your actions are no longer random. They are intentional. Every time you choose to focus, you are moving closer to your goal. Every time you resist distraction, you are reinforcing your commitment. Every time you follow through, you are building momentum. This is how progress is made. But there is a challenge that comes with long-term goals. Results are often delayed. This is where many people struggle. In a world that rewards speed and instant results, waiting can feel frustrating. You put in effort, but you do not see immediate outcomes. You stay consistent, but progress feels slow. You begin to question whether it is working. This is where commitment is tested. The average mindset loses patience. It expects quick results. When those results do not come, it becomes discouraged. It starts to doubt the process. It looks for something easier, something faster. And this is where it falls back into old patterns. The top performers understand something different. They know that meaningful goals take time. They understand that progress is not always visible in the beginning. They trust the process. They stay committed, even when results are delayed. This is what separates them. They are not driven by immediate outcomes. They are driven by long-term vision. This vision is what keeps them focused. A strong vision is more than just a goal. It is a clear picture of the life you are building. It is something you can see, feel, and connect with. It is something that pulls you forward, even when things are difficult. When your vision is strong, it becomes your anchor. It keeps you grounded when you feel distracted. It keeps you motivated when progress is slow. It reminds you why you started. Without a vision, it is easy to lose direction. You begin to react to circumstances instead of creating them. You allow distractions to take control. You move from one thing to another without a clear path. But when you have a vision, everything changes. You become more focused, more intentional, more disciplined. You stop chasing temporary satisfaction and start building something meaningful. This is the power of long-term thinking. It allows you to rise above the noise. It allows you to stay committed when others give up. It allows you to make decisions that align with your future instead of your present emotions. But building a vision is not just about thinking. It requires action. Your vision must be supported by consistent effort. Every day is an opportunity to move closer to it. Some days will feel productive. Others will feel slow. But every step matters. The key is to keep going. To stay committed, even when progress is not obvious. To trust that your efforts are building something, even if you cannot see it yet. This requires patience. It requires discipline. It requires belief. Belief that your actions matter. Belief that your vision is possible. Belief that consistency will lead to results. This belief is what keeps you moving forward. It is what allows you to push through doubt. It is what separates those who achieve their goals from those who do not. Because the truth is, most people do not fail because they lack ability. They fail because they stop. They stop when it becomes difficult. They stop when results are delayed. They stop when they lose focus. The top performers do not stop. They adjust. They learn. They continue. This is how they achieve long-term success. And this is what you must do. You must set goals that matter. Goals that challenge you. Goals that inspire you. Goals that align with the person you want to become. You must connect your daily actions to those goals. You must stay committed, even when progress is slow. You must build a vision that keeps you focused. Because once you do, everything begins to change. Your actions become intentional. Your time becomes valuable. Your effort becomes meaningful. And your progress becomes inevitable. You are no longer drifting. You are moving with purpose. You are no longer reacting. You are creating. You are no longer stuck. You are building. And that is what leads to long-term success. Not speed. Not shortcuts. But clarity, consistency, and commitment. This is how you turn goals into reality. This is how you build a life that reflects your vision. And this is how you become the person capable of achieving it. Chapter 8: The Power of Small Wins. There is a quiet truth about success that most people overlook. It is not built in one dramatic moment. It is not the result of one big decision or a sudden breakthrough. It is built in the small, often unnoticed actions that are repeated day after day. These small actions are what we call small wins. At first, they may not seem significant. They do not feel extraordinary. They may even feel too simple to matter. But over time, they become the foundation of everything you achieve. They create momentum. They build discipline. They shape your identity. The average mindset tends to ignore small wins because it is focused on big results. It wants fast progress, visible success, and immediate outcomes. When those things do not appear quickly, it becomes discouraged. It begins to doubt the process. It looks for something bigger, something faster. But the truth is, big results are built on small wins. Every habit you build starts with a single action. Every skill you develop begins with repetition. Every goal you achieve is the result of consistent effort over time. The top performers understand this deeply. They do not wait for big moments. They focus on small actions. They know that if they win the small moments consistently, the bigger results will follow. This is where momentum begins. Momentum is one of the most powerful forces in personal growth. It is what allows you to move forward with less resistance. It is what makes disciplined actions feel easier over time. It is what keeps you going when motivation fades. And momentum is built through small wins. Every time you complete a task, no matter how small, you create a sense of progress. That progress builds confidence. It reinforces your ability to follow through. It makes the next action easier. When you repeat this process, something begins to shift. You no longer feel stuck. You no longer struggle to get started. You begin to move forward naturally. This is the power of small acts of discipline. Choosing to focus instead of getting distracted. Choosing to complete a task instead of delaying it. Choosing to follow through instead of giving up. These choices may seem small, but they are not insignificant. They are building your momentum. And once momentum is established, everything changes. Tasks that once felt difficult become manageable. Actions that once required effort become routine. You begin to operate with consistency. Consistency is what turns small wins into lasting results. But consistency does not happen by accident. It requires awareness. It requires tracking your progress. When you track your progress, you create visibility. You can see what you are doing. You can see how far you have come. You can see the patterns in your behavior. This awareness is powerful. It allows you to reinforce good habits. It reminds you that your efforts are making a difference. It keeps you engaged in the process. Without tracking, it is easy to lose perspective. It is easy to feel like you are not making progress, even when you are. It is easy to forget the small steps you have taken. But when you track your actions, you create proof. Proof that you are showing up. Proof that you are improving. Proof that you are moving forward. This proof builds confidence. Confidence is not something that appears overnight. It is built through experience. It is developed by taking action and seeing the results of that action. Every small win contributes to this process. Every time you follow through, you reinforce the belief that you are capable. Every time you stay consistent, you strengthen your identity. Every time you make progress, you increase your confidence. This is how consistency turns into confidence. It is not about feeling confident first. It is about acting consistently and allowing confidence to grow from that. The more you show up, the more you trust yourself. The more you trust yourself, the easier it becomes to continue. This creates a cycle. Action leads to progress. Progress leads to confidence. Confidence leads to more action. And this cycle builds momentum. Over time, this momentum becomes powerful. It carries you forward. It makes it easier to stay disciplined. It reduces resistance. It creates a sense of control. This is how small wins lead to big results. But there is another layer to this process. The compound effect. The compound effect is the result of small actions repeated consistently over time. At first, the impact is not obvious. You take action, but you do not see immediate results. You stay consistent, but progress feels slow. This is where many people lose patience. They expect quick outcomes. They want visible change. When they do not see it, they begin to doubt the process. But the compound effect is not immediate. It builds gradually. It requires time. It requires consistency. And it requires patience. The top performers understand this. They do not focus on immediate results. They focus on consistent action. They trust that their efforts are building something. They understand that small improvements, repeated daily, will eventually lead to significant outcomes. This is the power of delayed gratification. When you choose to delay immediate rewards, you are investing in future results. You are building habits that support growth. You are creating a foundation for long-term success. And over time, these choices compound. They create results that are far greater than the initial effort. This is why small wins matter. They are not just individual actions. They are part of a larger process. A process that builds momentum, confidence, and results. But this process requires patience. It requires you to stay committed, even when progress is not visible. It requires you to trust that your actions are making a difference. This is not always easy. There will be moments when you feel like nothing is changing. Moments when you question whether it is worth it. Moments when you are tempted to stop. But this is where the real growth happens. When you continue despite uncertainty. When you stay consistent despite slow progress. When you trust the process. This is what separates those who succeed from those who do not. It is not talent. It is not luck. It is consistency. It is the ability to continue, even when results are delayed. It is the commitment to small wins, day after day. This is what builds success. Not one big moment, but many small ones. And the more you embrace this, the more your mindset begins to change. You stop chasing immediate results. You start focusing on consistent action. You stop looking for quick wins. You start building lasting habits. You stop doubting the process. You start trusting it. This shift is powerful. It changes how you approach your goals. It changes how you measure progress. It changes how you see yourself. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through. Someone who stays consistent. Someone who builds momentum. And this identity becomes your foundation. Because once you see yourself this way, your actions begin to reflect it. You no longer rely on motivation. You rely on discipline. You no longer wait for the perfect moment. You take action. You no longer feel stuck. You move forward. This is the power of small wins. They may seem simple. They may seem insignificant. But they are not. They are the building blocks of success. They are the actions that create momentum. They are the steps that lead to transformation. And the more you focus on them, the more your life begins to change. One small win at a time. Chapter 9: Emotional Control and Temptation Resistance. There is a moment that defines the direction of your life more than any other. It is not a major event or a life-changing opportunity. It is much smaller, much quieter, and far more frequent. It is the moment when you feel an urge and must decide whether to act on it or not. That moment is where your future is shaped. Every urge you feel, every craving that pulls your attention, every temptation that invites you to choose comfort over growth is a test. Not of your intelligence, not of your potential, but of your control. And how you respond in those moments determines whether you move forward or stay stuck. Emotional control and temptation resistance are not about eliminating desire. They are about mastering your response to it. Urges and cravings are natural. They are part of how your mind operates. They are signals created by your brain, often linked to habits, emotions, or past experiences. When you feel bored, your mind looks for stimulation. When you feel stressed, it looks for relief. When you feel uncertain, it looks for comfort. These urges are not the problem. The problem is how you respond to them. Most people respond automatically. They feel an urge and they act. They do not pause. They do not question. They follow the impulse because it feels easier in the moment. This creates a pattern. The more you give in to urges, the stronger they become. Your brain learns that these impulses lead to immediate reward, and it begins to repeat them more often. Over time, this makes it harder to resist. This is how habits are formed. And this is why managing urges is so important. Managing an urge does not mean suppressing it, or pretending it does not exist. It means recognizing it, understanding it, and choosing how to respond. The first step is awareness. You must learn to notice your urges as they arise. You must be able to say, "I feel this urge," without immediately acting on it. This creates distance. It separates you from the impulse. It gives you a moment to think. In that moment, you have a choice. You can follow the urge, or you can let it pass. This may sound simple, but it requires practice. Because urges often feel urgent. They create a sense of pressure, as if you need to act immediately. They convince you that giving in will provide relief. And in the short term, it often does. But that relief is temporary. And every time you give in, you reinforce the pattern. The key is to understand that urges are temporary. They rise, they peak, and they fade. If you can stay present and avoid acting on them, they will pass. This is where emotional control becomes essential. Emotional control is the ability to experience a feeling without being controlled by it. Most people confuse emotions with actions. They believe that because they feel something, they must act on it. If they feel tired, they stop. If they feel bored, they seek distraction. If they feel stressed, they look for relief. But feelings do not require action. They are signals, not commands. The top performers understand this. They feel the same emotions as everyone else, but they do not allow those emotions to dictate their behavior. They create space between feeling and action. They pause. They breathe. They observe. And then they choose. This ability to stay calm when faced with temptation is powerful. Temptation is often strongest when your emotions are heightened. When you are tired, stressed, or overwhelmed, your resistance is lower. Your mind seeks comfort. It looks for the easiest way to feel better. This is when most people give in. But this is also when discipline matters most. Staying calm in these moments requires awareness and control. It requires you to recognize that your current feeling is temporary. It requires you to understand that acting on it may provide short-term relief, but it will not align with your long-term goals. When you remain calm, you gain control. You are no longer reacting. You are choosing. This is where detachment becomes important. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop allowing immediate desires to control your decisions. Most people are attached to their impulses. They feel a desire, and they believe they must satisfy it. They identify with it. They say, "I want this," and they act on it. But what if you did not identify with every desire? What if you saw it as something separate from you? A thought. A feeling. A temporary signal. When you detach from your desires, you create freedom. You are no longer controlled by them. You can observe them without acting. You can acknowledge them without following. This is a powerful shift, because it allows you to make decisions based on your goals instead of your impulses. You begin to ask different questions. Instead of asking, "What do I feel like doing?" you ask, "What is the best choice for my future?" This question changes everything. It shifts your focus from the present moment to the long term. It aligns your actions with your goals. It strengthens your discipline. But this process requires consistency. Emotional discipline is not built in one moment. It is built over time. Every time you resist an urge, you are strengthening it. Every time you stay calm under pressure, you are building it. Every time you choose long-term success over short-term pleasure, you are reinforcing it. At first, this will feel difficult. Your mind will resist. Your impulses will feel strong. You may struggle to stay consistent. But this is part of the process. Strength is built through repetition. The more you practice emotional control, the stronger it becomes. The more you resist temptation, the easier it gets. Over time, your responses begin to change. You no longer react automatically. You pause. You think. You choose. This is how discipline becomes part of who you are. You are no longer someone who is controlled by impulses. You are someone who controls your actions. This identity is powerful. It creates confidence. It creates consistency. It creates progress. Because once you trust yourself to make the right decisions, everything changes. You no longer feel pulled in different directions. You no longer struggle with every temptation. You operate with clarity. You act with intention. And you move forward with purpose. Emotional control and temptation resistance are not about perfection. There will be moments when you give in. There will be times when you struggle. But what matters is that you continue. That you learn. that you improve. Because every step forward matters. Every moment of control builds strength. Every decision aligned with your goals builds momentum. And over time, these moments create transformation. You become more focused, more disciplined, more in control. You begin to realize that you are not defined by your impulses. You are defined by your choices. And those choices are yours to make. This is where your power lies. Not in eliminating desire, but in mastering your response to it. Because once you do, there is nothing that can control you. You are in control of yourself. And that is the foundation of long-term success. Chapter 10. Becoming a person of self-control. There is a powerful shift that happens when you stop trying to control your behavior and start transforming who you believe you are. This is the moment where change becomes lasting. This is the moment where discipline stops feeling forced and begins to feel natural. This is the moment where you no longer struggle to do the right things, because doing the right things becomes part of your identity. Becoming a person of self-control is not about occasional discipline. It is not about having strong days followed by weak ones. It is about creating a consistent standard for how you live, think, and act. It is about stepping into a version of yourself that is no longer controlled by impulse, but guided by intention. Most people approach self-control from the outside in. They try to change their actions first. They set rules, create plans, and attempt to force discipline into their daily lives. But when their identity does not align with those actions, the change does not last. They fall back into old habits, not because they are incapable, but because they still see themselves the same way. This is why identity matters. If you see yourself as someone who lacks discipline, you will act accordingly. If you believe you are easily distracted, you will find reasons to justify distraction. If you think you are not consistent, you will struggle to maintain consistency. But when your identity shifts, your behavior follows. When you begin to see yourself as a disciplined person, your actions start to align with that belief. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop making excuses. You start operating from a higher standard. You no longer say, "I should do this." You say, "This is who I am." This shift is powerful because it removes friction. It aligns your thoughts, your actions, and your goals. It creates consistency without constant effort. But this identity is not something you wait to earn. It is something you choose. You decide who you are becoming, and then you act in alignment with that decision. At first, it may feel uncomfortable. It may not feel true yet. But every time you act in alignment with that identity, you strengthen it. Every time you choose discipline over impulse, you reinforce it. Every time you follow through, you build it. Over time, this identity becomes real. You become someone who is in control. Someone who is focused. Someone who follows through. And this identity changes everything. Because once you see yourself this way, you no longer rely on motivation. You operate from intention. Living with intention means making conscious decisions, instead of reacting automatically. It means being aware of your actions, your habits, and your direction. It means choosing what aligns with your goals, even when it is not the easiest option. Most people live reactively. They respond to whatever they feel in the moment. They follow impulses. They seek comfort. They avoid discomfort. Their actions are driven by emotion, not intention. This creates inconsistency. It leads to patterns of starting and stopping. It creates frustration and lack of progress. Living with intention breaks this cycle. It allows you to take control of your decisions. It helps you stay aligned with your goals. It keeps you focused on what matters. When you live with intention, you do not ask, "What do I feel like doing?" You ask, "What is the best choice for my future?" This question creates clarity. It shifts your focus from the present moment to the long term. It helps you make decisions that move you forward. But living with intention requires consistency. Consistency is what turns actions into habits. It is what builds discipline. It is what creates results. Most people struggle with consistency because they expect perfection. They believe they must get everything right. When they fail, they become discouraged. They lose momentum. But consistency is not about perfection. It is about showing up. It is about continuing, even when things are not perfect. It is about taking action, even when you do not feel like it. The top performers understand this. They do not rely on motivation. They rely on standards. They show up every day. They follow through. They stay committed. Even when progress is slow. Even when it is difficult. Even when they do not feel like it. This is what creates long-term consistency. It is not about intensity. It is about repetition. Small actions repeated over time create powerful results. Every time you choose discipline, you are reinforcing your identity. Every time you resist an impulse, you are building strength. Every time you stay consistent, you are creating momentum. This momentum becomes powerful. It carries you forward. It makes it easier to continue. It reduces resistance. And over time, it becomes your new normal. This is how you become uncommon. Because the truth is, most people are driven by instant gratification. They seek immediate rewards. They avoid discomfort. They choose what is easy. And because of this, they remain average. Becoming uncommon does not require extreme actions. It requires consistent ones. It requires doing what most people are not willing to do. It requires choosing discipline when others choose comfort. It requires staying focused when others get distracted. It requires continuing when others stop. This is what creates separation. Not in one moment, but over time. Because while others are giving in to impulses, you are building discipline. While others are distracted, you are focused. While others are inconsistent, you are steady. This creates a gap. A gap in results. A gap in mindset. A gap in progress. And over time that gap becomes significant. You begin to see changes. In your habits. In your mindset. In your confidence. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to feel in control. You begin to realize what you are capable of. And this realization changes everything. Because you are no longer trying to become disciplined. You are disciplined. You are no longer trying to control your impulses. You control them. You are no longer reacting to life. You are creating it. This is what it means to become a person of self-control. It is not about perfection. It is not about eliminating every mistake. It is about growth. It is about progress. It is about consistently choosing what moves you forward. Every day is an opportunity. An opportunity to reinforce your identity. An opportunity to act with intention. An opportunity to build discipline. And the more you take these opportunities, the more your life begins to change. You become stronger. More focused. More consistent. You become someone who follows through. Someone who does what they say they will do. Someone who is in control. And once you reach that point, everything becomes possible. Because success is not about what you achieve. It is about who you become. And becoming a person of self-control is one of the most powerful transformations you can make. It is the foundation of discipline, the key to consistency, the path to long-term success. And it begins with a decision. A decision to stop living on impulse. A decision to start living with intention. A decision to become uncommon. Because in a world driven by instant gratification, the person who can delay it holds the greatest power. And that person can be you. CONCLUSION. There is a quiet moment that comes after learning, reflecting and growing. It is the moment where everything begins to settle, where the ideas you have encountered are no longer just words, but possibilities. Possibilities for change. Possibilities for control. Possibilities for a different kind of life. That moment is where you are now. You have explored the nature of self-control. You have seen how instant gratification pulls you toward what is easy, while delayed gratification pushes you toward what is meaningful. You have understood how your thoughts, your habits, your environment, and your emotions all work together to shape your decisions. And now one truth stands clearly above everything else. Success is built on your ability to choose long-term rewards over short-term comfort. This is the difference between staying where you are and becoming something more. It is not about dramatic actions or sudden breakthroughs. It is about the small, consistent decisions you make every single day. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you are building your future. Every time you resist an impulse, you are strengthening your mind. Every time you stay focused on what matters, you are moving forward. These moments may feel small, but they are not insignificant. They are the foundation of everything you will become. The power of discipline, patience, and intentional living cannot be overstated. Discipline gives you the ability to act, regardless of how you feel. It removes the need for motivation and replaces it with standards. It allows you to show up consistently, even when things are difficult. Patience gives you the strength to wait for results. It allows you to stay committed when progress is slow. It helps you trust the process, even when you cannot see immediate outcomes. Intentional living gives you direction. It ensures that your actions are aligned with your goals. It keeps you focused on what truly matters, instead of what feels good in the moment. When these three come together, something powerful happens. You gain control. You are no longer reacting to life. You are creating it. But it is important to understand that this process does not require perfection. You do not need perfect control. You do not need to eliminate every mistake. You do not need to get everything right. What you need is consistency. Consistency is what turns effort into progress. It is what builds habits. It is what strengthens discipline. It is what creates results. There will be moments when you struggle. Moments when you give in to impulses. Moments when you feel like you are not making progress. That is part of the journey. What matters is that you continue. That you learn. That you improve. Because every step forward counts. Every decision matters. Every moment of control builds strength. Over time, these small moments create a powerful transformation. Your mindset changes. Your habits improve. Your confidence grows. And most importantly, your identity shifts. At the beginning of this journey, you may have felt controlled by your impulses. You may have felt pulled in different directions, reacting to urges, distractions, and emotions without fully realizing it. But now that changes. You are no longer controlled by impulses. You control your choices. This is the most important shift you can make. Because once you understand that your choices are yours, everything becomes possible. You are no longer a victim of your habits. You are no longer limited by your impulses. You are no longer stuck in patterns that hold you back. You are in control. And with that control comes responsibility. The responsibility to choose what is right, even when it is difficult. The responsibility to act with intention, even when it is uncomfortable. The responsibility to build a life that reflects your values, your goals, and your potential. This is where your journey continues. Not in theory, but in action. Because knowledge without action does not create change. What you do next is what matters. You do not need to start with something big. You start small. You pause before acting. You take a moment to recognize your impulses. You create space between the feeling and the action. In that space you choose. You choose long-term over short-term. You choose discipline over comfort. You choose growth over ease. And you repeat this process. Every day. In every moment that matters. This is how discipline is built. This is how self-control is developed. This is how your life begins to change. It is not about one decision. It is about many. It is about choosing differently, again and again. And as you continue, something powerful happens. The choices that once felt difficult become easier. The habits that once required effort become natural. The discipline that once felt forced becomes part of who you are. You begin to operate at a different level. A level where you are not constantly fighting yourself. A level where your actions are aligned with your goals. A level where you are in control. This is where real freedom exists. Not in doing whatever you feel like doing, but in having the ability to choose what is best for you. Because true freedom is not the absence of control. It is the presence of it. You have the ability to shape your life. You have the ability to direct your actions. You have the ability to build something meaningful. And it all begins with a choice. A choice to pause. A choice to think. A choice to act with intention. Every time you make that choice, you are moving forward. Every time you resist an impulse, you are building strength. Every time you stay consistent, you are creating momentum. And over time, those moments add up. They create change. They create growth. They create a new version of you. A version that is focused, disciplined, and in control. This is not something reserved for a select few. It is available to you. Right now. In this moment. The only question is whether you will take the next step. Whether you will apply what you have learned. Whether you will begin to act differently. Because once you do, everything begins to change. You are no longer living by impulse. You are living by intention. And that is where your true potential begins. Thank you for reading this book. I hope you enjoyed it. Please remember to leave us a review. TM Light. Disclaimer. This book was created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. While every effort was made to ensure the accuracy and relevance of the content, readers should note that this cannot be considered professional advice. Readers are encouraged to apply their own judgment and consult experts where needed.